Hello, and welcome to Odds Serie A Match Day 20, or first match day of the Girone di Ritorno, as Danny always wants to say. It's going to be an interesting one after the Coppa Italia, with a lot to swallow, especially for Jose Mourinho and Roma, Danny.
8 times he got sent off in Italy this time, and Roma again lost a derby against Lazio. Milan lost against Atalanta. Tonight, Juventus, Frosinone, Fiorentina already in the semi-finals. So Inter campione d'inverno, winter champions, a title that doesn't give you absolutely anything but the psychological boost of being most of the time champions at the end. But we will see after a weekend of furious VAR controversies, favors, referees making mistakes, VAR making mistakes, Inter, Juventus, the battle is hotting up, and let's see what happens this weekend.
And we have Milan, Roma, and also very interesting one, Napoli, Salernitana, because Napoli, they push the self-destruction button and is in turmoil without Osimhen, of course, or Samwangisa in the African Cup of Nations. So guys, a lot to analyze. Like the video, subscribe. Let's go on with the show. Well, Danny, new year, all habits. We still have this welcome bonus with 1xBet. In case someone wants to register, they can get 130% in their welcome bonus. Use our code Oddspedia YouTube. First games, Danny, on Saturday we have 4 games. Genoa, Torino is the first one, with Genoa 7 points away from relegation. Great numbers. They got draws against big teams like Bologna or Inter, so they are in good form, especially strong when they play at home, whereas Torino as well getting closer to the European spots. They beat Napoli comfortably 3-0. The only problem is away from home. Torino, they are not reliable. This might be a draw.
It does screams like a draw. These two teams are very, very solid, very, very well organized. But yes, they do lack something in the goal scoring departments. But Genoa, they've done well, unbeaten in 4 games. They've taken a good point against Bologna lately. Gudmundsson in very good form, involved in 9 goals since October, scored a free kick against Genoa. But yes, they don't score many goals, but they are extremely hard to beat. They will be without Radu Dragusin, who's flown to London to join Spurs. He was one of the best players at the back. Let's see how they replace him. Let's see if they use those 25 million to buy someone else. Of course, salvation has not been achieved yet. 3 draws in the last 4 games for Genoa, but they've come against the likes of Inter, the likes of Bologna, the likes of Juventus. So, at home, always a good side to bet on. Last 6 Genoa matches, all under. They do scoring 5 out of 6. They don't score many. They don't create many chances, but at the same time, they don't concede many. They got a very good goalkeeper in the Spanish Martinez that you might know. Torino, on the other hand, a very good win against Napoli, 3-0. They beat the champions. They were better in every single department. They got a lot of energy in midfield. The midfield with Ilic, with Tameze, with Vlasic in support as well, Linetti. They got a lot of players that can really run the miles, really. And, it's up front. If Zapata and Sanabria start fighting the shooting boots, this could be an interesting season for Torino, who, by the way, they got the best tally in the second best tally in Serie A since 1994. And they're only 1 point behind Napoli. So, yes, the talisman could be Vlasic, could be Sanabria, 4th goal of the season. This, by the way, is a derby for Ivan Juric, the manager of Torino, played and managed Torino, Genoa as well. So the last 7 games for Torino have been under. I do smell an under here. The draw is nice, but if you want to really try your luck a little bit, Asian handicap 0 for the visitors, for Torino, 189, maybe to scrape a 1-0 win against a Dragu-less Genoa. Dragusin left.
Well, this looks like a 1-1 result. It's very Likely, next game, Danny, very interesting, Napoli Salernitana, because all the atmosphere around the Napoli, the players were booed and criticized and almost attacked by the fans. Only some months later, after winning the Scudetto, Osimhen criticizing Kvaratskhelia agent, then Sambuanguisa and Osimhen, both in the African Cup of Nations. Mazzarri not clicking, even getting things worse than Rudy Garcia. Luckily for them, is Salernitana, the team they have to beat.
Luckily, the team the last season ruined their party. Remember, 1-1. It was all ready for Napoli to celebrate Scudetto, and Boulaye Dia scored. But Napoli, I mean, they've fallen apart so quickly and so much. It's astounding. The lack of clarity in the movements of the players, the lack of clear instructions, the lack of clear leaderships as well. And at the first difficulties, they crumbled. They started well against Torino, created a couple of good chances, missed a goal with Raspadori, but then as soon as they conceded the first, for a lack of mistake at the back, a lack of focus at the back from Juan Jesus, who was a fault for both Torino goals, they just scramble, and then things go from bad to worse. Mazzocchi, new signing, comes in, gets sent off after 4 minutes and leaves these teams with 10 men. Then during the week, there is a spat between Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia agent. The truth is that Napoli haven't scored in 6 out of the last 8 Serie A matches. They are already out of the Coppa Italia against, they lost 4-0 against Frosinone, and only kept 2 clean sheets in 10 games under Mazzarri. Mazzarri was supposed to be the stabilizer, the man able to bring things back as they should have been, or at least give Napoli a little bit more of shape, a little bit more solid in defense. He hasn't happened yet. Still undecided Mazzarri whether he's going to play with a back 3 or he's going to stick with a 4-3-3. It's the first time that the champions of Italy have ended the Girone di Andata, so the first 19 fixture, with more than 20 points gap from the leaders Inter. Really, it was enough just to take Spalletti out of this team and everything fall apart. Salernitana, I have the feeling, had they stayed with 11 men, so had Maggiore not been sent off against Juve, they probably would have won the game. They were able really to stop and block Juve and counter-attack with intent. Even when they were down to 10 men, had a very good chance with Simi. Since the defeat in early November, when they lost 2-0 against Napoli at home, they scored Salernitana in 8 of the last 9. They're still bottom. They're going to be a big changes of players probably in January, now that Sabatini, the sporting director, has returned. There could be another miracle in the making for Salernitana. 63% of both team matches so far have been over 2.5 goals. I don't trust Napoli to keep a clean sheet here. I don't trust Salernitana, who only kept 1 clean sheet in all the Girone di Andata, to go to Maradona and not concede. Both to score 191.
Salernitana is a handicap +2. Mille is telling us.
Not bad. Not bad.
Is Mazzarri in danger, Danny, or not?
Not yet. But stranger things have happened in football and in Napoli, and De Laurentiis, likes to decide everything by himself. He has already accepted responsibility for what has happened. But, Mazzarri's contract expires in June anyway. But, this is a team that needs to finish in the top 4, really. They need it for the finances, for the future. They cannot afford to finish outside the top 4. But who else is left out there who can take this team more than halfway through the season? I don't know. So probably they'll stick with Mazzarri.
And they still have to play Barcelona in the Champions League. Next game on Saturday, Verona, Empoli, 2 teams in relegation spots. Verona lost to Inter, but they were this close, Danny, to give a great upset to the Nero Azzurri. It's only 3 victories this season. Empoli still unable to score goals. No goals in the last 4, winless in the last 7. It's impossible to trust any of the. It's the both teams to lose game of the match day.
Verona looked better recently, although they only won 1 of the last 17 games. But at San Siro, they showed courage during a difficult time for them, because Verona have got a little bit of issues financials. They have to make up some money. They got a few losses, around 13, 14 million they need to make up. So they already start selling some of the big players. Hien to Atalanta, Terracciano to Milan, Hongla went to Granada, if I'm not wrong, in Spain. Ngonj, their top goal scorer, might be next. So they're stripping out the team, really. And it's going to be difficult for them to stay up if they impoverish the team. And now, obviously, the game at San Siro, despite all of that, they managed to find an equalizer, which they deserved. And in the end, there were furious polemics for the 2-1 from Inter. And in the 100th minute, Verona missed a penalty with Henry. They would have deserved the point. But are they going to be affected by the victim syndrome now, after everything that's been said in the week, and lack focus against Empoli? Their tally is not been great, but at home they've been scoring lately. They've been scoring a couple of goals in many games, apart from the 1-1 defeat against Salernitana, which leads me to believe they do have enough firepower to maybe score a couple against Empoli. You don't need many goals to win against Empoli because they got the worst attack of Serie A. 10 goals scored, 6 less than Salernitana and Verona. The good omen for Salernitana is that at this point of the season last year, they had 12 points and still managed to avoid salvation thanks to the playoff against Spezia. The team is not as bad as last year. I think it's stronger, but depends which kind of players they can keep. For Empoli, the awful record continues. 13 scoreless game, although in the second half against Milan, they did try something. No goals in the last 4. The partial excuse is that a lot of absentees against Milan. They had a makeshift back 4. At some point, Ghiasi, a striker, had to play right back. It was difficult for them. They get back some of their players, but I really can't imagine this being a very high-scoring game. I like the under 2.5 goals, 180, and probably a Verona nil by just 1 goal margin.
Next game, Dani, Monza, Inter should be much more interesting than this Verona Empoli. Tricky game for Inter. You mentioned that they suffered a lot against Verona. They drew with Genoa. They were out of the Cup. They have the Super Cup next. So it's very tough, Inter's calendar, and perhaps they are a bit tired. And Monza, again, they beat Frosinone, drew with Napoli at home, only 2 defeats. So be careful with this game.
I feel Inter have slowed down a bit lately. They only won 3 of the last 6 and only kept 1 clean sheet in the last 4. Now, the numbers are amazing. 48 points, more points after 19 games. They won the treble under Mourinho. Only the second time since 1994 they have so much points in the table after 19 games. But it's true that a few injuries to key players, Di Marco, Lautaro, De Vrij, Dumfries, the lack of quality replacement sometimes in the likes of Arnautovic or the same Nino Sanchez, the absence of Cuadrado have tired the team out a little bit. They crash out of the Coppa Italia against Bologna, and they've shown against Verona that they've got some issues still at managing leads. And I think this is going to be really, really key for Inter in the pursuit of the Scudetto. They've taken the lead 18 times out of 19 games this season. They only came behind against Juve. But if they don't have the energy, the sharpness, the legs to manage leads, they're going to find themselves in many more situations now in the Girone di Ritorno when the teams are obviously stepping up and they're fighting for their objective much more strongly than before. They're going to find themselves in many situations as they did against Verona. That 2-1 win against Verona last Saturday and the polemics overshadow the fact that Inter were not able to give them the killer blow. And yes, they have they looked a little bit distracted. But now Inzaghi has got everyone back, everyone fit, and the new addition of Buchanan on the right-hand side might provide them with some fresh legs. But careful, because this is going to be a tricky one for Inter. Last season, Monza have taken 4 points out of them. They scored 3 against Frosinone. They don't score many goals, as many as they did in the previous 6 games. Hard to believe this is going to be a 0-0. No clean sheet for Monza in 4 of the last 5 home games, but this is a team that likes to keep the ball moving well. They got some interesting young players. The one above all, Valentin Carboni, who, by the way, is son of former Catania player Carboni, but he's also property of Inter. yeah, careful with Monza. One note is without Di Gregorio, the goalkeeper, who stopped for saving Serie A, best goalkeeper according to Opta Stats. So Andrea Sorrentino, only 2 games in Serie A, will have to face the likes of Thuram and Lautaro, who, by the way, scoring 3 in the last 3 games against Monza. So Lautaro, streaky striker, score against Verona. Always interesting to look how much it pays for him to score. Over 2.5 goals, 190. I think if Inter wants to win this one, I think they'll have to score more than once. It won't be a win 2-0 for me if it's an Inter win. Over 2 goals, 2.5 goals, 190.
All right, Danny, next game is Lazio-Lecce. Lazio, great victory. For sure is going to boost them in the Coppa Italia, in the derby against Roma. They are closer to the European spots with 3 consecutive victories in Serie A. They have next the Super Cup, as I said, against Inter. So, of course, really favorites to play against Lecce. Remember that Lecce, they are winless away from home.
This is not the Lazio that Sarri had in mind. They don't play nowhere near as good as previous Sarri team, but they become much more ferocious, much more aggressive, and able to manage in the tight margins. Now Sarri says there is more harmony, they are more practical as well, have only scored more than 2 goals in one occasion since October, since the beginning of the season, only once. They scored 3 against Atalanta. They win a lot games by a time margin, but in the derby midweek they created most of the chances. Really, their goalkeeper Mandas only made 1 save in the 89 minutes against Bellotti. In the second half they came up fired up. Zaccagni and Anderson, they're looking more inspired. Castellanos, I think he's replacing Immobile pretty well. Gained a penalty against Roma. Still no Immobile because he's injured. And, I think defensively, they are getting better and better. 5 clean sheets in the last 10 games. Last season, Lazio kept 21 clean sheets in Serie A. The numbers are not still there, but there are signs of improvements. I think in the reverse fixtures, the first game of the season, they lost undeservedly. They were better until the 80 minutes, they hit the bar, and then Lecce scored 2 late goals. As you mentioned, Lecce's form is not great. They suffered another comeback against Cagliari. Now they've lost 11 points from winning positions. It is a team that struggles to manage leads. They tend to defend most of the times. Only won 1 out of the last 14 Serie A games. Only 10 points collected in this space. So not a really good tally. And they're going to be without some key players here. Banda, who, by the way, he's their top shooters. He's the players, very quick, often hasn't got a finished product, but sometimes he just goes for it, shoots, and unsettles the defenses. He's alongside with Rafinha, he's a DFN Cup of Nation. Sansone is injured. I know the record against Lazio is good in Serie A, won 3 of the last 4, but really don't take that into account too much. For me, the odds for Lazio to win are so good to be really overlooked. You can even be a little bit more ambitious, like I'm going to be. Lazio, an handicap minus 0.75, 191. What does it mean? If they win by only 1 goal margin, let's say 1-0 to 1, you win half a stake. If they win by 2 goals margin, you win the full stake.
Okay, Ian is going for first half draw. Lazio, now they are in spot number 6 in the standings, only 3 points away from Fiorentina. Next game is Cagliari, Bologna. Tricky trip to Sardinia for Bologna. They've slowed down in Christmas out of the cup, drew with Genoa, lost to Udinese, whereas Cagliari at home, Danny, they have a good record, 3 wins and 2 draws in the last 5 games.
Yes, unbeaten in 5 of games. They haven't collected 6 good results at the Sardinia Arena since 2019. So I think that tells you how well Ranieri is doing this season, especially when they're playing at home. Away, they are poor, they're awful, but they got a decent point against Lecce. Cagliari is a strange one because they take an awful lot of shots. They are 11th for shots taken in Serie A, but they got the worst conversion rate. They score a goal every 14, 15 shots. So really, they do lack the cutting edge. And it could be dangerous for them this game because they are missing 4 forwards, Lapadula, Oristano, and Luvumbu, who have scored 6 of their 17 goals so far. But on the other hand, also Bologna are not a high-scoring team, and they're going to be without the top scorer, Zirkzee, 7 goals so far, suspended for this one. So both teams depleted up front, and Bologna is the team that draws most games away from home so far in the top 5 leagues, actually. 6 away games, a record share with Brest and Mainz. What lacks Bologna is the cutting edge, is the finishers, and obviously they are lacking goals, and we saw it in the quarterfinals against Fiorentina in midweek. They had the ball most of the time, they play well, and it's not easy to do it against a team against Fiorentina, but they do lack they play a lot of passes in front of the defenses. They lack someone running in behind the defense and someone be clinical to take the chances. They only scored 22 goals, Bologna, so far. Only Torino in the top 10 of Serie A have scored less, and only 7 players of Bologna have scored. So if you look at the numbers, you can understand why they may be going to struggle from now on. Last season, Orsolini have scored 11, so far only 4. The defender, Posch, last season scored 6, none so far. And the only one on course to keep the same number is Ferguson, 4 goals, 7 last season, and no goals from the likes of Salemaker, Doye, Christensen, Freuler. These are players who play regularly, so they need something more. But can they find it away at Cagliari, who's often a very difficult place to go, especially Cagliari that's fighting for salvation. I like the Asian handicap 0 for Cagliari in the first half here, 2.16, which means if they win the first half, you win. If it's a draw, as often Bologna ways games are, you get your money back.
Okay, good one. Chinonso is going for a double chance for Bologna and under. You mentioned Bologna losing or being out of the cup in the penalty shootout against Fiorentina. Next game is Fiorentina-Udinese, very good always in knockout competitions, Fiorentina, but also this season in the Serie A. They are in the 4th spot despite the defeat against Sassuolo. Last games, Dani, really low scoring games, 1-0, 0-1. Udinese can be a tricky team to face right now because they've improved since they changed manager.
They have slightly improved, it is true, but it's a team that only won 2 games so far this season, both 2-0. It's going to be difficult for Udinese to go to Firenze and win 1-0 or 2-0, although Fiorentina goals have dried up a lot, 4 goals in the last 5 matches. Since Nico Gonzalez, the winger, is out, that's the problem. They got no more width. Also Sottil, the other winger, is out. And Italiano has changed the system, so he switched to a back 3 in midweek against Bologna. He's going to keep playing that way with Barak behind the 2 strikers, Beltran and Icone. So Icone closer to the goal. Maybe look at the odds of Icone having over 1.5 shots or providing an assist, because really so far it's been missing and misfiring. But yeah, Fiorentina were unlucky against Sassuolo. That was the first defeat since the 21st of November. They missed a penalty. Consigli made a couple of great saves, but they conceded a silly goal. Often they are distracted at the back. Can they keep a clean sheet again? The last few 1-0 wins, I think they've been a little bit deceptive in this case. They don't concede many. They got the 4th best defense in Serie A, conceding 19, as many as Udinese have scored. And Udinese, again, are another one of those teams that need to take an awful lot of shots to score. I think they are 13 in Serie A for shots taken, only 19 goals scored, just a bit better than Cagliari. And of course, I mean, Salernitana and Verona have got their own problems. So again, you could look for maybe something else, a player props, maybe players like Lovric, Pajero, Pereira. These are the midfielders of Udinese. They like to shoot a lot, sometimes even because they haven't got many options up front. But I think Udinese, being a counter-attacking team, could grow into this game. And I like Asian handicap plus 0.5 for Udinese in the second half, 180, which doesn't mean they're going to win the game. They might just get a better result in the second half, playing on the counter, especially if Fiorentina expose themselves a little bit. So yes, if Udinese doesn't lose the second half, you win the full stake.
Fiorentina and an under 3.5 goals. This could be a good one, or even Fiorentina under 2.5 goals could be a good option for this game. Best game on paper this match day is Milan-Roma. Milan won at the Olimpico earlier this season, and Roma, they have a lot of problems right now. Mourinho being sent off in every single game, only one win in the last 5 Serie A games. Again, Roma not winning the important games. They've only beaten Napoli recently. Talking about top teams, knockout from the cup, same as Milan. How do you see this one? Because it's very tempting, the odds for Milan not to win.
It is, but Milan, had they actually turned the corner, is actually the crisis over. The numbers in Serie A would suggest so. In the last 7 games, they collected 16 points. Inter and Juve got 17. And at home, they've got a very good record, only 4 goals conceded, best defense with Juve. But the last couple of results for Milan have come against easier teams to beat, the likes of Sassuolo at home. Sassuolo not in a great moment. The likes of Empoli, Cagliari, Monza as well. So the calendar got easier for Milan. Now, the defeat against Atalanta yesterday showed some of Milan limits. When the concentration goes down, when the rhythm goes down, they are not able to manage games very well. So they always have to play a high intensity. So they conceded as soon as they score with Leao. And also their defense got tested properly by a strong side that attacked them with pace, with intent. And they made mistakes. Pioli has resorted to a lot of young players recently due to the necessity. But for example, the likes of Jimenez yesterday caused the penalty against Atalanta. Simic, Chaka Traoré, are they actually ready to play so many games in a row against top opposition? They got a lot of players injured, up to 9, and the defense is depleted. No Gabbia, no Kjaer, no Thiaw, no Tomori. It's going to be complicated. Benacer and Chukwueze are out with the AFCOM. You would expect them to not lose this game because at home they've been good so far, but there are so many doubts about who's going to play and which kind of form they're going to be. Is Theo Hernandez going to return back at left back? Is he going to stay at center back? He's been really good in terms of progressive passes and carries, carrying the ball forward. But again, the opposition, the likes of opposition he played against, I don't think they actually test him a lot. Leao seems to be in form, 2 goals in the last 3, 2 goals and 4 assists in 9 games against Roma. So you might want to look for a Leao to score anytime. And comes with Roma, yeah, you mentioned really well. They do fail to win the big games. Only 7 wins in the last 18 league games against top oppositions in Italy. It's way too poor for a team that aspires to be in the top 4. They are often too ponderous against top sides. Against Atalanta, they didn't play that badly, to be fair. But yeah, they lacked something. They lacked the energy. They lacked the spark. And for this game, they might be without Dybala, who came off injured at the halftime at the derby. And we know without Dybala, they're a really poor side. Away record is very poor for Roma, only 2 wins. Cagliari and Sassuolo, very nervous in the derby again. Mourinho sent off, Mancini, Azmoun sent off. So yes, it is difficult. Look, you have to look at the numbers. They played 9 games in Italy so far this season against top opposition. Never scored more than once. 8 times it was under 2.5 goals. And that was the reverse fixture when Milan won 2-1. They've only led at halftime Roma once against Fiorentina. This is historically a difficult fixture for Roma. Last win here against Milan in 2017. So you could go for a Milan win and over 1.5 goals, for example, Leao to score. I do like them both to score 195, to be fair. I think probably a 2-1 win for Milan. That's what they like the most. Milan win or 1x Milan both to score. But both to score 195. Neither of these 2 teams convince me very much in defense.
Okay, Mourinho will miss, of course, this game. On Monday, yes, we have Atalanta Frosinone. Atalanta getting closer also to the European spots. Right now, they are 3 points away from Fiorentina. They won the last 3 home games. Frosinone, Dani, dropping spots in the table because it's 4 consecutive defeats for them.
Yeah, and the Frosinone situation is a little bit strange because They got 19 points, which is a lot, I think, much more than many people would have expected it. And it's a team that scores a lot. They only failed to score 3 times. But I don't think their salvation goes via outscoring teams by 2 or 3 goals. They need to start conceding less goals, because eventually some of the teams behind them, the likes of Udinese, the likes of Verona, they're going to start catching up with those ugly 1-0 wins. And if Frosinone is not able to do that, I think they will be in peril. They got the highest percentage, Frosinone, of over 2.5 goals in Serie A, 58%. And they do concede goals. They conceded 2 goals or more in 58% of their games. Whereas for Atalanta, their home form is very good: 9 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. They managed to get the job done against the small teams. They beat Lecce, Salernitana, Genoa, Cagliari, Monza, all at home. Really, at home against those sort of teams, they are reliable. Last time they lost against a small team in Serie A was in February 2023 against Lecce. They lost 2-1. In the last 21 home games, Atalanta have scored in 18 of them. So they have got the scoring prowess at the regards. And, credit to Gasperini, because without their main man, Ademola Lookman, 7 goals so far, he has reinvented the team. Miranchuk, the Russian, looks like a new player, playing up front in the false nine position, giving the assist to Koop Miners for the goal in Roma, provoking the penalty against Milan. And Koop Miners is in great form. He's a midfielder, but his numbers are almost like a striker. Scored 10 last season, 3 goals in the last 2 games, 24 goal involvements since last year. He's the penalty taker of Atalanta. You could look for Koop Miners to have over 2 shots or over 0.5 shots on target, and maybe Atalanta to win. I like Atalanta to score in both halves here, 2-15. Atalanta have got the second highest point tally in second half. So they score a lot of goals in second half. 20 goals scored by Atalanta in second half. Frosinone have let 19 goals after the first 45 minutes. I think Atalanta could score easily in both half years. 2-15.
All right, Danny, Atalanta over is Chinonso's tip. And the last game on Tuesday is going to be Juve Sassuolo. Remember that in the reverse fixture, Sassuolo won 4-2, but it was a long time ago. In the last 13 Serie A games for Juventus, 11 wins and 2 draws. The numbers are great, even if they are always winning 1-0, 0-1, or suffering a lot. Like against Salernitana for Sassuolo, Danny, it was a massive victory. They won against Fiorentina to ease a little bit the pressure on the relegation, 4 points away still from the relegation spots.
So after the defeat at Sassuolo in September, Allegri built the wall. No, since then they never won a game by more than 1 goal margin. They collected 3 wins in stoppage time. They built this granitic mindset, which is helping them to stay in touch with Inter. And Inter, you can tell they're feeling the pressure. But the numbers are obvious. Juventus are not a high-scoring team. They sometimes suffer when teams are really organized and very intense against them, like the likes of Genoa and Salernitana. They scored 15 goals less than Inter. But, in football, if you win ugly, you still get 3 points, even if you win 5-0. So it doesn't really count at the stage of decisions. 6 wins for 1-0 for Juve, 10 in total by just 1 goal margin. And yes, they make the most of other teams' mistakes. Against Salernitana, as I mentioned, if they probably had played against 11 men, they would not have won that game. They played tonight against Frosinone in Coppa Italia. There are a couple of changes there to the formation, but Sassuolo, careful, because this is the most unpredictable team in Serie A. They have defeated 3 of the top 4, Inter, Juve, and Fiorentina. They are only 5 points adrift from relegation. Kept the first clean sheet against Fiorentina after 26 games, which was, by the way, the 1-0 win against Juve in April. Beat Juventus in 3 times in the last 6 games. But then again, you probably could see them struggling for salvation this season. But they got goal scorers. Berardi, 9 goals. Pinamonti, 7 goals. They score more goals together than Vlahovic, Chiesa, and Rabiot. So that tells you, really, Sassuolo has to be taken into account, has to be taken carefully. In the bottom side of the table, they scored 26 goals. That the team has scored the most goals in the bottom side of the tables, but their away record is awful. They conceded 18 times. Both teams to score for me here. 196. Again, it could be a hard-fought win by Juve. Maybe Sassuolo even to take the lead, and Juventus coming back, winning 2-1 or 2 or 3-1. Both to score has happened in 68% of Sassuolo games and 9 of the last 12 in all competitions. So don't look at the 1-0 win against Fiorentina, the 1-0 win against Milan. Those are deceptive. It's both to score for me, 196.
All right, Danny. So I guess your safe bet is not Juventus to win.
The safe bet is not Juventus to win. It's a double chance for Cagliari. It's an Asian handicap plus 0.5 for Cagliari, which pays 160.
And the ACCA?
3 selections after winning last weekend. ACCA with 1 push, 1 money back. This time is Napoli, Salernitana under 3.5 goals. Lazio, Asian handicap -1 against Lecce. And Atalanta, Asian handicap -1 against Frosinone at home. The total is 6.19.
Wow, beautiful odds indeed, Danny. If, as you mentioned, if, for instance, Atalanta or Lazio win by 1 goal margin, that result goes out of your ACCA and you can still win it. Danny, thank you very much. The mighty ACCA, Ian is telling us. Thanks, Danny. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao, Edu. Speak soon.